Hi. So this video is to go over the STAR model for answering interview questions. I want to make sure that we review this and we go into some of the definitions and the details of how to answer your questions. Before we actually review the model, I want to make sure that we agree that the goal of the interview is not to get the job or the internship or anything else. The goal of the interview is for you to share accurately who you are with the interviewer and for them to walk away with a good idea for who you are. Because if they know who you are and you did a good job telling them, and they know what job or internship they have, and they can make a good decision about lining you up with that or not lining you up with that, then they're able to do their job and they're able to do it well. So if you do a good job on your interview and they decide you're not the right person for the job, then probably that's a good thing. So I want to make sure that we set that up, that success isn't getting the job or whatever it might be. Success is sharing who you are and telling your story so that then they get a sense for how you respond to situations, what you're proud of, where your morals are, and how you like to interact with the world. Okay, now on to STAR. So STAR, S-T-A-R, situation, task, action, result. So we want to make sure that we answer our questions using this model. When we do this, it gives us a blueprint for how to move through the story that we're going to tell. And it gives us a way to share that story that really highlights our actions and the results that we've achieved. It also gives us a blueprint for how to practice our answers so that we're sure to highlight the actions that we take, the type of person that we are, the type of actions that we do take that come naturally to us, and the types of results that we achieve, the way that we see success, the way that we think about what success looks like. So let's go through this a little bit step by step. So first, situation. The situation is the problem that you encounter. So for an example that we can work through as we're going through this, let's just say that I'm an operations manager and I find out that a peer is going to be having a visit from some higher up in the company, and not all of his things are in order, and we probably need to help get him in order. So the first thing is I hear about this visit. That's the situation. The task then, I might say there wasn't a task. Nothing was actually asked of me. But I might say that the person that I am, though, I reached out to him and I said, hey, I know you've got this visit coming up. If there's anything you need help with, I would love to help. I'd love to make my people available and help you so that you're successful with this visit and you're able to highlight all the great things that are going on in your part of the organization. Then from there, we can start to move to the results. I might talk about how I made people free for the effort. I might talk about how I made resources free for the effort. I might talk about helping practice presentation skills, or I might talk about maybe even working with some of his own subordinates to make sure that they were up to snuff with their what they were going to present as well. And then finally, the results. This is where I would highlight exactly how things went. What came of it? It was a great visit. People from other departments were able to walk away with a clear understanding of what our part of the organization does, what our successes are, where our challenges lie, and how we can be supported best by other parts of the organization. And then maybe, oh, by the way, our budget was increased, right? And then what that budget increase meant to that organization or that part of the organization. So when I answer these, and I've gone through kind of quickly now, I've had the situation, What was the problem? What was the issue? What was the task? Now the next is task. What was that task? What did I see my job as being? Either something that was directly given to me or something that I interpreted, something that I walked away with. And then, and that first two, that's really about 20% of the answer. And it should be about 20% of the time. So if you think, I want to take about 5 minutes to answer these questions, then really we're looking about setting up the situation task in about a minute. We want to spend the next 4 minutes talking through actions and results. And we want to do that because that's really where we're highlighted. So I want to talk about the actions that I've taken. And I want to use a lot of sentences that start with I. Sometimes this is uncomfortable for us, but that's okay. Practice, make sure we get over it. Because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell you all about me, or in this case, you. So there's going to be a lot of sentences that start with I in that actions part. Then we'll move on to results. And we'll talk about all the good things that happened because of the actions that you took. Next to that then, so we've got the STAR. There's also another AR, and that's for the alternative results. We'll use this only when we come to maybe a question about failure, and we can talk about the actions we took and the results that we got. And if there's a failure, we'll talk about what those failures look like, the results. But then we want to follow it up quickly with AR, with the other AR, alternative results. And this is where we might say, you know, I could have achieved alternative results or results alternatively if I would have taken these other actions. And I might have received these other results. And I've learned that now, and I can see it now. And we want to make sure that we do that so that if we talk about our failures, and we should be able to, we can also talk about the lessons learned, and we can demonstrate that we are learning people, that if you bring me into the organization, this is something I do. I will learn from my mistakes. We all make them. I will make sure I learn from them. So that's situation, task, action, result, and then alternative result. Now, when you're practicing this, I find that the best way to practice this is to actually make an index card for a bunch of scenarios. And I practice these first with myself and then with other people. Usually it's somebody that I'm comfortable with, somebody who is comfortable with me, who will give me honest feedback, because I really do want honest feedback. I want the person I'm practicing with to be able to say, oh, that sounds like you, or don't forget that you did this, right? Because they might know the situation. Or maybe it's an embellishment on my part and they would be able to say, I don't think you did that. That wasn't something you did. So practicing is worthwhile. But what I typically do is take out an index card. I'll put the question, and I'll give you those up at the top, and then I'll write down the situation. Usually it's just a bullet point or two to jog my own memory. The task, I'll be pretty explicit with that because I want to be explicit with that. I want to be explicit with what I thought the work in front of me was. And then I'll bullet point the actions I took. Typically, I will, on the actions that I took, I will write down notable buzzwords. An example is like partnered or secured, right? So I may have partnered with human resources. I may have partnered with another employee, a peer, or maybe a mentor. I may have secured a situation. I may have secured a person. I may have taken a person out of an unsafe situation. So I look for those buzzwords and make sure that I put them as the first word in the bullet. And then finally with the result, I try to be really clear and I try to make sure that I include numbers if there's numbers that are applicable. It might be I helped 12 customers inside of 15 minutes while we were in the middle of an unexpected run on our store. It might be something like that, right? Or it might be that our budget was increased by $2 million to fund projects in department X, Y, and Z. So if we can be specific with results, then we should. This goes for the failures too. If we can be specific with the failures, we should be specific. On the alternative result, I do want to make sure that I highlight what I was thinking, like what I've learned. So I learned I should have partnered with this person. I learned that the more important thing that I should have been looking at was this and not that. Or it might be that I just learned something about my principal. My principal being either my boss's boss, or it might just be my own supervisor. But I maybe learned more about their vision and how they're seeing things. And so then I can adjust myself to that. And what I think results would have looked like then alternatively. So now when I practice these, when I put these down on a card, the first thing I'll do is look at the job description and look and see, like, what are some of these situations that I think are going to come up. If I can look and imagine this job 6 months from now, 6 months from when I'm brought on board, and I think about the situations, the problems, the issues that might come up, what might those look like, and what in my past have I seen that looks kind of like that? And so I start to think in those terms. So if it's a customer service forward type of job, I might think of a time when I've worked with a difficult customer, or when a customer reached out and gave me great feedback, or was really pleased with the service that I gave. If it's a job that is responsible for maybe managing people, I might think about when personnel issues have come up, or I might think about when I've had to hire people, or when I've had to terminate people, terminate their employment. So, so some basic questions to cover though, and I like to start with these because it's just good memory jogger. But one is something I'm proud of. Just can be anything, just something I'm proud of. Another is a time I saved the day. Another is a time I dealt with a difficult person or a difficult situation. Another is talking about what makes me a great teammate. And then the last is thinking about a time that I did my very best and I still came up short. I still failed. And then I also want to make sure that I know and write down and have some way to demonstrate what my strengths are. I try to think in terms of at least 3 strengths. And I'd like to think in terms of at least 1 signature strength. So my strength that peers would say, if you need to know about this, you got to go talk to Matt, because he's really good at that. He's great at it. So I would want to share that. What is my signature strength? On the other end of it, I also want to be able to share my opportunities, or at least know them. I don't always want to share them, but I want to know them. And I want to say opportunities and not weaknesses, because an opportunity is an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to get better, an opportunity to do more. Whereas weakness is just weakness. So I want to make sure that I'm saying something about a place where I know I need to grow, or I know I need to manage. I like to lean into strengths more than into opportunities. So I really try to highlight those strengths that I am thinking about, that are mine in those answers. And when I'm thinking about opportunities, I'm usually thinking about how I manage the opportunities. There's some thinking really that says opportunities, you could try to grow into your opportunities, but because it's an opportunity. Your best bet is to actually just manage them and try not to get good at them. Instead, lean into your strengths and manage your opportunities. So for me, the opportunity that I will always share, and it's one that a lot of people probably have, is paperwork. I hate it. I hate doing it. I hate the idea of it. Thinking about it stresses me out. So when people ask, well, what's your opportunity, or what opportunity do you have, or what do we learn 6 months from now about you that isn't the best thing, I'll mention paperwork. But what I do mention, though, is I'll say, I hate paperwork. I know it makes the world go round. It does. It just does. So what I do to manage the fact that I detest paperwork is the first hour in my day after I've taken care of catching up with notes from the day before, or any very quick to-dos or calls that I need to make, the first hour of my day I schedule as just paperwork. And I schedule it for uninterrupted time with just paperwork. If I'm all cut up, usually I get through in a quick 15-30 minutes. But if I need to, I've got the full hour to just get that paperwork, make sure I do it right, get in on time, or keep it moving, whatever it needs to do. But I want to make sure that I'm taking care of it and doing it the right way. So these are a bunch of thoughts just to share with you. That one, again, the STAR technique, STAR model, situation, task, action, result. To share that, to give you some prompts to start thinking through that, and then to also talk about a little bit about strengths and opportunities. Oh, one other thing, that STAR model. When you come across a question, it'll happen that you didn't practice for, you didn't necessarily see coming. Make sure you're honest about it and just say, oh, I need a few seconds to think about that. And then take those few seconds. Be comfortable with that. Practice that. Make sure that when you practice going through these answers, and you're practicing with somebody else, have them drop in a question that they clearly know you haven't practiced for, because they don't see it in your practice cards. And then practice saying, oh, let me think about this for a moment. And then take a few beats to consider the question that's being asked, to reflect on your history and where you can find that answer, and then start using that structure, that architecture of situation, task, action, result to guide you through that answer. But again, you want to practice this. You want to practice all of these questions and all those models. And then I think the last thing really is, make sure that you remember the entire goal of this is, as much as it feels like, it's going to feel like the goal is to get the job or the internship, or maybe it's just the next interview. But really the goal is to make sure that you share confidently with the person who's interviewing you what you're all about, who you are, the way you think, the way you move through professional situations, and the way you move through discomfort. If you can do that, then they will be successful in either correctly naming you or not naming you as the candidate that they want to move forward with in either the job, the internship, or the next round. Okay, good luck. Go get them.